Hey everyone, welcome to this full moon Sidereal Astrology forecast for the full moon on December 18th and 19th, 2021, Saturday and Sunday. Alright, so we have a full moon here, the halfway point of the lunar cycle, and in this case a very important cycle because we are in the eclipse cycle. This lunar cycle started with an eclipse, a solar eclipse, and so this is the halfway point now of that, and just all in all a good time to do a status check. How has the past couple weeks been going in our life in terms of our life path, in terms of perhaps some deep transformations with a lot of the deeper Scorpio and Quincunx energy we've had. But now we come to the status check and seeing how that's been going and maybe making some shifts and changes for the remainder of the cycle for the next 2 weeks, and we could even say for the next 6 months regarding any new insights, new perspectives, or quite literally new things that have surfaced into our life over the past 2 weeks. Now, the full moon being right in between Taurus and Gemini, if you're expecting me to say Gemini just then, only Gemini, be sure to check out the link down below for more information. We're using true Sidereal Astrology, which is very different from mainstream astrology. But yeah, Taurus, the bull, resourcefulness. This has already been a theme from the last full moon as well, doing a status check with our inner and outer resources. How can we continue to develop that? And a bit of Gemini as well, which is about learning and practical energy. Being interested, gaining information, using our minds, I think is also great with this. All right, so let's take a look at this. We have a trine up to Jupiter quite strongly, the planet of expansion and perception and free-spiritedness. A square up to Neptune slightly, and so being a bit receptive or challenging ourselves to be receptive and more in tune in the present moment, and some other minor aspects we have as well. So let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here is the chart for the full moon. So the full moon will be right on the cusp between Saturday and Sunday. It's happening around midnight 30 for the east coast of the Americas on Sunday morning. But for all intents and purposes, it will be this Saturday, late Saturday, early Sunday for most of us here in the world. And as you can see here, we are using the visible sky, the uneven constellations, the uneven sizes. And so this is how they're seen visibly in the sky. And so this does change the signs quite drastically from mainstream astrology. And a good example is that mainstream might say the full moon now is in Gemini. But if you were to look up at the sky, you would actually see it at the very end of Taurus, making its way into Gemini. So if you are new to this channel, definitely check out the link down below for more information on true Sidereal Astrology. All right, so let's go ahead and analyze this. Halfway point of this cycle, it's been a very perhaps deep, transformative cycle. This whole eclipse started in the Scorpio, Quincunx energy. Mars has been next to the South Node, which is very deep as well in Scorpio. And Venus next to Pluto, we'll talk a bit more about as well. So doing a status check with things like healing, personal transformation, personal empowerment, reclaiming our true power. True power comes from being non-attached or as non-attached as we can, right, to the things we want, to the physical world, this sort of spiritual perspective that, our true power comes from within. And so reclaiming that is great. Also anything around healing and deep diving, whether it's physical healing, spiritual, mental healing, emotional healing, whatever it might be, has been fantastic. Now this is finishing up, I would say, actually, as we do get into the second half of the cycle, because as you can see here, the sun is already passed over the galactic center at the time of this full moon. And so this is usually the transformative part and a quite deeper part. So anything leading up to the full moon, I think, is great, again, for that deeper energy, healing, transformation. But we'll likely start to feel that post-transformation energy as we come out of the weekend going into next week. This is the sun passing over the galactic center of the Milky Way that draws in all this light. And, this is very metaphoric for the spiritual, releasing, letting go, and really re-embracing, reconnecting the stuff that we've exiled about ourselves or about life, redeeming the deeper qualities of ourself and of life. And this leads to that healing and transformation. So likely a huge theme with this full moon here. But the full moon will technically be in the opposite constellations. And we could even say that it's happening in Orion, which is the opposite to Ophiuchus, Orion the hunter. But technically not, though, because if you do look up at the sky, you will see that the full moon is actually quite above the ecliptic, so very far up from Orion. But nonetheless, we could think of it this way, as a mix between the Taurus and Gemini. So Taurus is the resourceful side of ourself, the natural side of the hunter that pursues values and is very grounded and resourceful and very self-reliant, right? And so I think it's been a great time for this. The last full moon was here as well. And so doing a status check with our, let's say, first of all, self-reliance, our resourcefulness, and cultivating our both inner and outer resources in life. And so how's that been going? What are some shifts and changes we may want to make perhaps to continue to develop those inner and outer resources, our inner strength, self-reliance, resourcefulness, mustering this up and making whatever shifts and changes might be needed to further that. And all in all, with the moon actually being exalted here, liking to be here, I think it's a great time to be grateful for what we do have on the material level and the inner level regarding our resources and even natural gifts, natural talents and things of this nature. But enjoying a good meal, some relaxation, some comfort, some nature, things like this, being grateful for it is a great way of working with this. And that helps, again, helps us reconnect to that inner grounded side, resourceful side, to, again, further any shifts and changes that likely happen during the full moon. Now, the Gemini side is the inquisitive, mental, practical side of the hunter, let's say, which is very much about, gaining practical skills, gaining information, knowledge, and perhaps even sharing that with others. And so a great time of doing this, using the mental energies, learning, reading, writing, gaining information, gaining knowledge, but also a bit of a social energy perhaps could be good going into next week. This will be more so as we go into the later part, let's say, of the full moon. But being interested, right? Being interested in gaining information on a very everyday level, talking to peers, neighbors, siblings, all this stuff where we're exchanging with those of equal status, as they say with Gemini, and just being interested in exchanging, right? So great to do that, exchanging, whether it's information, knowledge, or just in general. Gemini also rules business, trade, exchanging, and the very practical elements of life. And that's why it can be a great time of developing practical skills, learning practical things, and using the more left side of the brain sorts of things in life. So you can see this is very much the earthy elements, whereas, the sun's been in the more spiritual elements and now going into Sag, which is more of the free-spirited, right, and this deeper energy. So it's all about balance. And as is all full moons, this one is, we could very well say, the balance between the spiritual realms and the physical realm, that we do need both in order to heal, to transform, to connect to the deeper side of life. We do have to be grounded, connected to nature, resourceful, right? Cultivating our inner strength, being interested in learning, right? And all this kind of practical, balancing also the free-spirited life with the practical life, or the spiritual and the practical, right? So that's, I think, fundamentally a great way of working with this full moon. But again, just a good time to do a status check. How are things going in our lives? Making some shifts and changes to further develop this cycle. Now, taking a look at some of these aspects we have, the most important being of almost direct trine up to Jupiter, who has now made his way back into Aquarius. And so this is a very supportive, aspect here, Jupiter being a benefic, a trine being easy. And so I think with this is an open-mindedness, coming into this full moon, especially with a lot of these planets in Sagittarius, the sign that Jupiter rules, and the sun entering Sagittarius. So great to be open-minded, a bit free-spirited, seeing the bigger picture, and a bit adventurous, both literally or, again, spiritually or mentally. Jupiter and Sag are very much about the right side of the brain, actually. Things like spirituality, astrology, anything that's more abstract or theoretical, let's say. And so great to do those things as well, a bit of adventurous, either literally or mentally. And, from that, being open to expanding our horizons, expanding our perception, Jupiter's very much, Sagittarius, very much about expanding perception, our beliefs, questioning the meaning of life, listening to that spirit for life that is free and wants to expand and broaden and be open-minded. So very supportive here with this. And in Aquarius, it could be very much about the future or even collective matters, actually, surprisingly, with what's been going on very strongly collectively these past couple of years. Now there is a square up to Neptune. Now it is quite minor, and but still worth mentioning. And so there is the challenge here that it's good to challenge ourselves with bringing in more healthy water energy into this mix. And here, this challenging ourselves to go with the flow, to be more receptive along the life journey, challenging ourselves towards things like unconditional acceptance of ourself, of life, of our situation, of others in a constructive way. Right? Neptune is about the quote-unquote selfless energies, which is really about living presently, doing things that are more important to us on a soul level. Right, doing things important to us on the soul and spiritual level, and anything that is constructive like this with the square, spiritual activities, creativity, imagination, anything that's more soul fulfilling, is a great energy to work with, and in this way it becomes very constructive with the square to Neptune. If there is any uncertainty, doubts, nebulousness, escaping energy involved, good to be aware of that. Sometimes that can be the imbalances of Neptune in a square. But finding, again, the constructive ways of finding peace, right, is really what this is about. All right, and then we have this quincunx up to Venus, which I normally don't talk about these minor aspects, but since Venus is the ruler of Taurus, I think this is important. So Venus is going station retrograde. She's going to start her reworking process here over until the end of January. And so there's a lot of things reworking regarding our values now coming up, and relationship stuff, our agreements, how we relate with others, and even these resources. Okay, so good to kind of pause with that around the full moon with Venus station as we're starting this reworking process of our values, relations, and resources. And so I think that's going to be a theme with the full moon as well. But it's all to understand more about what we value, to embed our relations and how we relate with others, and also to embed our resource life, our inner and outer abundances. So a bit of anything that is involving those things, good to pause with, maybe start to rethink, redo, rework, reevaluate. And I would say with Venus so close to Pluto, it's very much about our deeper values. I think that's fundamentally what this is, what really matters in life, getting to the core of things, stripping away the false values, all right, things maybe we thought we valued or we were conditioned to value. So anything that is about, again, with all this yin energy, with a Fucus, Scorpio, Mars, all this still going on, this kind of, again, non-attachment, allowing for the quote-unquote death of the values, of the relations, of the resources, which then allows for the rebirth, right? Because if we're still holding on tightly to these things and there's no real change, and we're still operating in that fear or in a security or whatever it is, but when we're not attached to these things or values, then we're free, right? And then we're empowered to maybe make the changes we really do want to make, but that we otherwise wouldn't because we were still locked into that fear, security, attachment, kind of a thing. So this is going to be a process. Venus is just stationed, slowed down. It's going to be passing over Pluto. She'll pass back over Pluto once she goes direct with Mars in the January, February time period. But right now, I think that's a good way of working with it. All right, so the quincunx is about integration, and so it's integrating that kind of energy, challenging ourselves to integrate that sort of Venusian energy there with Venus close to Pluto. All right, and then of course Mercury just confirms this. Mercury is the rule of Gemini as well, but Mercury is already in Sag, so again, expanding our perception and balancing the practical with the abstract, the practical and the free-spirited energies. We do need both in life, and I think that's a big emblem of this full moon here. All right, everyone, so that is the full moon in a nutshell. Quite straightforward, actually, even though there's a lot going on, but it really is this deeper, balancing the deeper and the natural worlds, the spiritual and the physical, inwardly and externally. Anything that's about a status check with this, making some shifts and changes, particularly in the context of cultivating our inner and outer resources, and our interested side with Gemini, all right, practical side. So balancing the self-reliant, let's say the natural values with the deeper values, balancing the practical life with the free-spirited life, looking at it in that deeper lens for that healing, transformation, and empowerment with Venus, Ophiuchus, Mars, and next to the South Node. All right, we do have a support with the free-spirited natures of Jupiter, which is great, and a bit of challenge. Good to challenge ourselves with more, healthy peace, receptivity in our life with that square to Neptune. All right, so everyone have a fantastic full moon. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click the like button if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you are watching this on YouTube, definitely check out the link down below for signing up to MTZ Insiders. It is an absolutely free newsletter where you do get these videos released before YouTube and extra content not normally released here. All right, so do check that out if you haven't already. But again, have a great one, everyone. Thank you again. And I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.